Hello, everyone. My name is Sophia. I'm a Med4 student. Prior to that, I worked for the state of California managing a project called the Land Smart Grazing Program. So I'm going to be talking about how public funding can be used to support sustainable fire mitigation and also build community. How do I get it to go? There we go. Okay, so the problem that this project addresses is that since colonization, we've had the introduction of non-native, mostly annual invasive species that have displaced our native plants in California. This also has displaced our native disturbances as well, such as the use of fire and our native grazing like ungulates, such as elk and deer. So this has direct impacts on our species biodiversity. These lower pictures are yellow star thistle and harding grass. These are really invasive and problematic plants in California. And this top photo is a native perennial grass called meadow barley. This is what we'd like to see in our California rangelands. The consequences of this is we have an increase in fine fuel biomass. We have really hazardous ladder fuels, fuel continuity, higher flame lengths, and also fires are spreading quicker as well. As you probably already know, wildfire is a huge issue in California as well as in most Mediterranean ecosystems. This vegetation needs to be managed. Often landowners are legally mandated to as well, depending on where they live. And the options we have for managing this vegetation is prescribed burning, mowing, like mechanical operations, as well as herbicide. But these options aren't always popular with the general public. They can be really expensive. They're not always feasible depending on where the land is. And we need just a better option to manage vegetation on a landscape scale. So that's where the Land Smart Grazing Program comes in. We provide funding to landowners to help use grazing as a vegetation management tool. This program utilizes local and state grants to fund projects such as multiple landowners grazing in previously burned areas. So landowners that lost their homes in recent fires that have now had a lot of regrowth will fund projects to bring in a herd of goats or sheep or sometimes cattle. We also will pay for the installation of permanent grazing infrastructure, such as permanent perimeter fencing or water troughs. We provide community education on how to utilize this tool, and we also provide funding for our shepherds to increase their business's capacity. Why should we graze? Prescribed grazing mimics a natural and necessary disturbance that our ecosystems are adapted to. It also transitions our seed banks to more native and perennial landscape. This top photo here shows like a perfect example of these hazardous ladder fuels. All of this is non-native, and these like mid-length fuels, that's all invasive shrubs that have resprouted after a wildfire. Also in the bottom photo, you can see this is right after a graze we did in the spring. It increases our biodiversity. We had one of our best wildflower years after we brought grazing back to this site. And it also, the manure increases soil fertility. So it's overall a great idea. More options or more reasons we should graze. Animals can access places humans or machinery can't. It's also a lot less noisy and less of an air pollutant than other options. Sometimes it's cheaper, and it also supports our local fiber and food systems. So this project here was in the middle of the American suburbs. We could run a lawnmower through here, but I don't think the community would like that as much as they would seeing a nice herd of sheep grazing. A lot quieter, a lot less carbon being used. So here are some previous project examples. This is a nature preserve that had a catastrophic wildfire go through it twice in the last 7 years. You can see 5 days post-grazing, there's been manure left over, there's been bare soil exposed. You can see the fire has gone through because the fencing is charred. And then 1 month post-grazing, we've had some resprouting, so we're increasing live fuel moisture greater into the dry season. And so also our perennial grasses are having a chance to compete with the non-native invasive annual species. This is the installation of permanent infrastructure. This is the same preserve. We have power lines going through. On the other side of this hill, we also have a water treatment facility that provides clean water to around 500,000 people. So we need fuel reduction and fuel mitigation around this area. And so we brought cattle into this preserve again. We also formed community grazing co-ops. This community lives adjacent to a state park, and we help them design a community grazing co-op so they all collectively share the cost of bringing a herd through their community year-round. So this is getting neighbors to think proactively about wildfire mitigation. Most of these people lost their homes in 2017, and this is giving them a chance to organize and recover and also utilize grazing as a tool. They also have birria nights at the end of each grazing season, so it's fun. This is another example before versus after. You can see the reduction of ladder fuels, uplimbing, and also just fine fuel biomass has been decreased. This is right below that property, all invasive shrubs after. We also fund the Transhumans Festival, where we run a herd of sheep through Petaluma in California. We're introducing this concept back to the general American public. You don't see something like this generally in California. So we herd a flock of sheep through town, and then we also provide educational demonstrations related to land stewardship practices. And it also gives people a chance to purchase local fiber products. The results of this project is we've invested nearly $1 million into rural communities. We've managed over 1,000 acres sustainably. Neighbors are working together. They're forming community through this. Local shepherds are getting recurring contracts, so they're able to increase their business's capacity and plan for the future. We've worked with 3 local governments to create long-term grazing plans for their open spaces they manage, and the general public is more aware of this as an option as well. And then I'll end on this photo. This is California poppies, as well as our state grass, purple needlegrass. You can see it's the middle of summer on this ridgeline, and it's the only thing that's green. So we're trying to increase the frequency of our native perennial grasses and bring them back. And we're also trying to use grazing, one, to increase public safety for fire mitigation, but also increase biodiversity, bring back our native forbs, such as on the right. So this is Cicericium bellum, western blue-eyed grass. Thank you for listening.